winning and being president, and probably president for life.
Do you believe that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden got bribes?
Don't protest in the middle of the street if you don't want to get hit by a police truck. Rachel Maddow is apparently off her rocker. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, did they take bribes from Burisma? Vivek, Ron DeSantis' new plan, possibly. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Tuesday, August 29th, the year of our Lord 2023. My mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. We've got a lot to cover today, a lot going on in the world, but I'm going to do something that I feel like we don't usually do. We're going to start the day with dessert. Usually we save the crazy kind of, I don't know, not weird, but crazy nutso videos for the end. But we're going to go ahead and do that straight off the bat because you know what? Why not? This happened yesterday in the state of Nevada. A bunch of climate protesters were blocking a road, I believe, to go to Burning Man, but I thought Burning Man was in California. But regardless, that's what the tweet said. Blocking the road, only one way in, one way out, and the Nevada Rangers, who I couldn't figure out if they were the Indian Reservation police or Nevada State Police. Regardless, one of the law enforcement officials in the area said kindly, hey, you need to get out of the way. And they said no. And then they got their megaphone and said, hey, you need to get out of the way. You can't block the street. And they said, no, climate change is going to kill us all. And then the Nevada police or law enforcement did this.
Did anyone get that?
Yeah.
Daryl!
Better move.
They changed!
Get out now! Get out! On the ground! All of you on the ground now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't move!
So I only kept playing that because I I just think the karma police, not the stupid term because there are actual police involved, but we're not violent. I thought that was funny. I thought it was great. We have no weapons at all. Yeah, but you can't block the road. I feel like we've seen a lot of these videos pop up recently, especially in Europe, where people just sit down in the middle of the street and people kind of like, what are we doing? And they pull them off to the side and then they run back in the street. It's just this big, long thing. I feel like for a long time, and fortunately I've never been put in the situation to have to deal with these Looney Tunes people, but I've always kind of just thought, I'm just going to go, I don't know, a mile an hour. Like, they can't stop my car. My car is not able to be stopped by a human being. So if I just incrementally creep forward and say, hey, I'm going, please don't get run over by this car that is moving at literally 1 mile an hour. That's how I feel like I would handle it. I don't know because I've never been put in this situation. But I wish I could handle it like this, because I thought this was great. Just watch that beginning part one more time, because I don't know. They're going up there and... politely using the tool at their disposal to get the protesters out of the way. Now, them saying, we're non-violent. Yeah, that doesn't mean you just get to do anything. If you say you're nonviolent, you don't just get to go and just disrupt other people's lives. That's not how the world works. It's not an excuse to do anything. We're environmental protesters. Okay, you're still under arrest. You're still blocking possibly the only way for someone in a dire emergency to get to the hospital. If anything is violent about this, it's the fact that somebody could be having a medical emergency and you're stopping them from getting the treatment that they need. I don't know. I'd call that violence. If you guys are going to call, not you guys, but if people like this are going to call speech violence, because I guarantee you there's a lot of overlap between the environmental people and the ideological crazy people, they're going to call speech violence, physically blocking someone from getting to their destination, especially someone that may, again, be having a medical emergency. If saying words is violence, then maybe that's violence too. And again, the police handling it beautifully, I believe. Jody says this, I would roll over them at 1 mile an hour. That's kind of my thought. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but if they're sitting there blocking the way, one, obviously committing a crime, and two, blocking me from where I need to go, if, God forbid, there's something going wrong in my family and I need to get to a medical emergency, I would not go 1 mile an hour. But I think just in general, I'd probably just creep. Say, like, look, if you get killed by this car, it's kind of your fault. Like, I'm going to 1 mile an hour incrementally, very, very slow. You don't need to get hit by this car. You're choosing to get hit by this car, in which case, I don't know how that's my fault. Wow, a bunch of people in the comment section. Phage says, move. Sandy says, they got what they deserved. Kind of seems like the case. All right, so dessert is over. On to kind of semi-important stuff. I thought this was fascinating. I want to talk about this. I know I say I don't like talking about the horse race that is running for president, but I can't help myself. I am to the horse race as Hunter Biden is to Parmesan cheese. I can't lay off of it. I just gotta keep talking about it. But I thought this was fascinating. Considering the polls and considering the political trajectory of one Ron DeSantis, Governor R, Florida, I kind of was always also wondering where he's going to go from here. People who are like, well, he should have waited to run until 2028 because it's Trump's turn to run. I don't believe in terms. I don't believe in anointing presidential candidates. That's not, I don't know. I don't believe in that, especially in the party that prompts ideas more than people, hopefully, which I don't know. I don't know how that's going. But anyways, I've often kind of wondered, what the next step is, because Ron DeSantis had to run this cycle. Regardless of whether or not you think it was his turn, just trajectory, career-wise, if he were to wait till 2028, he would have had to do something else. Because just like in the same way that Gavin Newsom has to run this cycle, I'm wearing my Corruptifornia t-shirt today, but I think I've been saying that Gavin Newsom is running for president for like a year. He has to run because currently, and this is Gavin Newsom we're talking about here, he's the governor of the most populous state in the union, and he's about to be termed out. So if he doesn't run this cycle, he'd have to wait till 2028, in which case he will be a former governor, and that's assuming a Democrat loses, by the way. If a Democrat wins, say, God forbid, Kamala Harris is the president of the United States, Gavin can't run in 2028, and then he has to push it out to 2032, in which case he's a washed-up former governor that nobody knows or cares about at all. So he has to run now. Same thing with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is in his second term as governor of Florida. I guess I didn't check this, but I'm pretty sure there's term limits. There's term limits everywhere, 2 terms as governor. So 2024 is his 6-year mark. He will be out of the governor's office in 2026, and if he were to wait until 2028, he will be effectively a political nobody. I hate that's the way I hate that that's the way politics works, but it is. So he has to run now. But considering the fact that he's losing by a ton, and I don't think, barring some cataclysmic event, I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to get the nomination. You got to figure out what's your next step here. What is your strategy? Do you stay in, or do you find a way to continue to be politically relevant? Donald Trump, of all people, truthed this out. Rumor are strong. All right, we're starting off grammatically a little bit on the wrong footing. In political circles, that Ron DeSantis, I'm not going to quote the former president here specifically, because his syntax is so crazy. But he says, rumors are strong in political circles that Ron DeSantis, lots of adjectives, will be dropping out of the presidential race in order to run in Florida for Senate against Rick Scott. Now that's an interesting one, isn't it? I thought about that for a second and kind of thought to myself, that is probably his only move. Like, really, that is probably the only move for Ron DeSantis if his ambitions are to be the president of the United States. He started off in Congress, became the governor of Florida, can't really go back to Congress, not going to stay the governor of Florida. The next stepping stone, the only really stepping stone that he has, is to run for the Senate. Unless he strikes a deal and says, hey, Trump, I want to be Secretary of State or some other high-level cabinet position, then he could still be in the political media eye. But that's if Trump wins, and I don't know if he wants to bet on that. So really his only other option is to run against Rick Scott, also a Republican from Florida. And I don't know how that goes. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if that's the only option he has left. But it is fascinating. And also, don't think that Donald Trump is the only person that had this idea. I would imagine that Ron DeSantis and a lot of people in his camp are kind of thinking the same thing. But Trump, as he always does, throws a wrench in the system by just saying it out loud. I don't think that's very far off from a real possibility. You know, it's either that or Ron DeSantis swings heavily. And if you are going to assume that Trump gets the nomination, which is probably a safe thing to assume at this point in time, he goes and grovels and said, I want this position so that I can stay in the limelight for 2028. Or else, if he's not a senator and if he isn't in a high-level cabinet position, he is irrelevant. Which is unfortunate, because I think personally, I think Ron DeSantis would make a fantastic president. And that is not there is no person running for president on the Republican side right now that I don't think would be a good president. I like Tim Scott a lot. I like Nikki Haley a lot. Oh, don't even get me started on Asa Hutchinson. Oh my gosh. You know, it's shocking to me that Asa Hutchinson hasn't gotten more traction thus far. You know, because Asa is just, I'm on Team Asa. I couldn't even tell you what state he's from. But I'm all about Asa. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's, you know, I think all of the candidates would be probably, well, considerably better than what we currently have. But you know, it's too bad. I think Ron DeSantis would be a fantastic executive of the executive branch. But, you know, who knows? Who knows how it plays out? You know who definitely thinks that she knows, knows how it'll play out, is one Rachel Maddow. Now, I don't generally like talking specifically about people. I don't like knocking people. I like knocking ideas, but ideas obviously have to come from people, so there's no way of getting around it. I don't know. Here's what I'm getting at: is I for a long time, and still do to an extent. I'm not fully swung one way or the other on Rachel, but I think in a lot of ways, Rachel Maddow is a smart person that I happen to disagree with. Sometimes, a lot of times, she's very articulate. She makes her points. She, comes up with ideas that I haven't heard before, and it's fine. I generally, again, don't agree with her, but there's a difference between disagreeing with somebody and still thinking they're a sane person, or thinking, oh man, I don't know if she has it all together anymore. I want to play you this clip from her show last night. She was trending on X for it. I thought it was fascinating to listen to. Now, I'm going to play it for a little bit of a long time because I do want to play it in scope. I don't want to just chop out different components of it. So I don't think that would be fair. But I want you to listen for the thing that she says repeatedly over and over again that makes me think, oh no, she's either lying or outside of her mind. Watch this.
The election means one of two things, if this is the way he's going to approach it. Either he loses the election and he goes to prison, or he wins the election, he doesn't go to prison, and is that for life, that he gets to be president? Will we keep having more elections, or no? If every election is a new opportunity for him to go to prison, do you think he allows us to have new elections? I mean, if those are the stakes, if winning the election is his plan to stay out of prison, what happens in that election if and when he does not win it? Does that kind of an election end with a graceful concession to a fair and square re-elected President Biden? I mean, if Trump and his supporters see the stakes as losing and going to prison or winning and being president, and probably president for life, how should we expect that he and the Republican Party and Republican officials in swing states are going to handle the conduct of that election that Trump may very well lose? And because we are prone to forget, we have to say out loud, I mean, that we would be remiss, we would be willfully naive to ask that question as if our politics exists in a vacuum, somewhere outside the rest of our news. As if the politics pages are totally different than the crime pages, right? As if we are not in a moment where far-right politics is coincident with far-right violence, with regular shows of force from paramilitary extreme right groups, and with acts of violence by people who are explicitly and admittedly motivated by far-right eliminationist political ideas. We are prone to forget, but we do not have to.
Okay, I know that was a little bit long. It is fascinating how a bunch of you, the viewership shot up. When Rachel Maddow's watched, I would imagine that a lot of people hate watching Rachel and go, gosh, I can't stand what she's saying. I couldn't stand what she's saying either. But I want you to, did anybody catch one particular thing that she kept saying over and over again? I'm looking for it in the comments. See, let's see. Sheila says, sorry, I can't listen to her. Sheila probably tuned out. Did anybody catch the one thing that she said over and over again? If he wins election, will we ever have an election again? Then she said, if he wins, he's probably president for life. And then she repeated, if he wins, will he ever let us have another election? The case that she's making is that Donald Trump either has to win or either wins or goes to prison, as if those were the only two options. Of course, there is the option that he is acquitted of all of the charges, which, given the strength of the charges, probably likely that he's acquitted of pretty much everything. Again, I'll say this, the Mar-a-Lago documents case, still kind of iffy, still kind of like, I don't know why you didn't just give those back. But the federal January 6th, the Fulton County January 6th, and the Manhattan stripper payment thing are hilariously beatable. That was probably the wrong adjective. But assuming that they're going to get convictions out of that, I think is a very, very, very poor bet. So, one, you have to assume that he's going to get convicted, which I don't think is a safe assumption. And two, to then say that, okay, well, if he wins, assume that he's never going to hold another election and he's just going to be president for life. a dictator, if you will, is a crazy thing to say. And just so we're clear here, if you're saying that sort of thing truthfully and honestly, and people believe you, do you think that raises the tension and possibility of political violence as you were just decrying that you don't want? Or do you think that lowers the temperature? I think pretty much anybody with a head on their shoulders would say, no, that raises the temperature of political violence in this country. When you say, as it is to be assumed, that if Trump wins, he'll just be a dictator for life. If you say that and people believe that, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Just a crazy, irresponsible thing to say, in my opinion. I could get to some of the comments, but looking at the time here, we should probably move on to this other thing, because this other thing is also super important. That's all I have to say about Maddow. I still kind of think she's a reasonable person that I happen to disagree with, but holy cow, you can't get away with saying some of that stuff. Just wild. And making it seem like an assumption that we'll just throw out the Constitution. If he's elected again, he either goes to prison or the country burns. What a freaking irresponsible thing to say. Speaking of irresponsible, did you catch this last two nights ago? Brian Kilmeade interviewed a guy by the name, I don't know his first name, Shokin, who is the the prosecutor that was looking into Burisma that Joe Biden had fired. We'd all seen the clips of Joe Biden, I believe it was 2018, when he talked specifically about a quid pro quo. He said to the Ukrainian president at the time, Poroshenko, that if you don't fire this prosecutor that's looking into this company that my son happens to be on the board of, you're not getting U.S. federal aid, U.S. government aid. And I think we all remember the line, Joe Biden saying, son of a bitch, he got fired. Well, that attorney that got fired did an interview with Fox News, and it went a little bit like this. We've got 3 pieces for it that I'd like to play for you, but check this out.
I developed a very firm understanding of the fact that the vice president was only acting in his own interests. He, generally speaking, handled Ukraine like it was his own backyard. He would put people that were suitable for him, he would arrange for them to be put in certain positions.
So there's that. There's actually a comment in here that from a person who does not agree here that I'd like to get to. Philip says Shokin should be trusted. LOL, entire Europe and GOP said he needed to go. This guy is low information show. Oh, that's on me. I want to get to that, actually. That we'll talk about that in a second. But so there was that. And then Kilmeade asked, lost my train of thought. Let me just play this clip. Kilmeade asked a question specifically of what's Joe Biden? Watch this and we'll continue on.
There wasn't anything particularly different about it. The reason that I was handling it was because it deserved a special mention. It was on a list of cases to merit special attention because Hunter Biden was involved with Burisma, and of course his father, the vice president, Biden at the time, oversaw Ukraine affairs for the White House.
So again, we can question the viability of the words, viability of the statements that Shokin is saying. But I want to play one more clip before we get to kind of just the fallout of this. Again, this guy is making claims that, I don't know, either are totally true or not. It's kind of up to the public to decide. Check this out.
Do you believe that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden got bribes?
I do not want to deal in unproven facts, but my firm personal conviction is that, yes, this was the case. They were being bribed. The fact that Joe Biden gave away $1 billion in U.S. Money in exchange for my dismissal, my firing, isn't that alone a case of corruption?
So this guy believes that the president and Hunter got bribes in order to get him out. Now, here's the thing that's fascinating. I want to bring that comment back up. It says, Shokin should be trusted, Phil says. LOL. Entire Europe and GOP said he needed to go. LOL. First of all, to assume that the entirety of Europe and the entirety of the GOP said he also needed to go would probably be a bad assumption. But here's the thing. One of the things that I think we have problems with in this country as a whole and as a media landscape is the inability to hold two thoughts in our head at the same time. In other words, this particular instance, maybe this guy Shokin is corrupt. I don't know. I haven't delved into it enough to get a firm handle on what he believes. I am not his autobiographer. I do not know him intimately. That being said, if you look at the situation, let's assume that this guy Shokin is corrupt, as Philip so adamantly put. Let's assume that he's corrupt. Okay. Regardless, is it not weird that Hunter gets brought on the board of a company in the specific region of the world where the vice president is kind of tasked with handling? Is it weird that they were paying him $100,000 a month or whatever crazy $50,000 a month, whatever it was, whatever crazy number the Ukrainian energy company was paying him? Is it not weird that they were paying him that? Again, this goes without saying whether or not this guy Shokin is believable or not. Are you able to hold two thoughts in your mind at one time? Are you able to say, yeah, Ukraine is a corrupt country? That goes, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, independents, all know that. But to not then also be able to say, well, it does look weird that Hunter got millions of dollars from this company. Why? Does it seem entirely impossible or implausible that maybe there was a reason for that? Because at the end of the day, and I've said this before, there are two things that had to have happened, or one of two things had to have happened. Either Hunter was taking money from, and this is not just Ukraine, we'll call them bad guys around the world. He was taking money from bad guys around the world and maneuvering his connections within DC, whether it's Joe Biden or other people that he had met, to help those bad guys who were paying him millions of dollars. Either that was happening, or the bad guys were paying him millions of dollars and Hunter was screwing them and not doing anything to earn that money. The Hunter being paid millions of dollars is the only thing we actually know. The question we have is, why? Was he screwing the taxpayer? Or was he screwing the international evil guys? I'd be willing, I could probably make the assumption and the bet, and I don't know. The thought that I have in my head is, if he was screwing the bad guys have a certain way of handling issues. I'll leave it at that. So what seems to be the most likely scenario? I don't know. Or maybe, as I have a stand-up joke about this, maybe Hunter Biden is just the most talented attorney on the planet, bar none. He is the best. Maybe that's the case. But I doubt it. And we didn't get a chance to get to Vivek versus Eminem, which is also another fascinating thing. Maybe we'll get to that tomorrow, along with the SpaceX thing. So, that being said, believe what you want to believe, but don't let your ideology wrap you up in a corner where you can't think of two things possibly being true at the same time. But that'll do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. We will be in, I know I keep saying this every day, but I always forget, Fallbrook, California on September 23rd. Van Buren / Fort Smith, Arkansas on, October 6th. Friday. And then Saturday, October 7th, we'll be in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then November 17th, we'll be in Twin Falls, Idaho. And that is not including all the Turning Point stops. I'll be around the country doing the thing with the good folks at Turning Point. So if you want to catch any of those comedy shows or political talks featuring either Charlie Kirk or Candace Owens with yours truly opening up the event, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just again, type in JOBOB. You'll be able to find me pretty much anywhere. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.